If you want to break into the luxury market as a real estate agent, this one video will change your perspective forever. There is nobody better to teach you about how to become a luxury real estate agent than Gail DeMarco, because she's not only done it in one market, she's done it twice. Gail has broken into the luxury market in two separate markets on two opposite sides of the country and has closed solo over $90 million in volume and a total of over $1 billion in sales in the luxury market, with about 60 luxury listings every single year. And in today's video, Gail breaks down exactly how you can do it even if you're a new agent with no experience and have never even touched $1 million listing in your life. Now, two quick things before getting started. Number one, I will link Gail's YouTube channel below because it's a wealth of knowledge and you can see exactly some of the content that we're talking about. And number two, I will link her calendar below. Gail loves to work with agents just like you, one-on-one for free, to help you break into the luxury market and start to become a dominant multi-million dollar listing agent. So if you would like to book a private Zoom call with her, click that link in the description and let's have a conversation. But without further ado, let's bring on Gail DeMarco and talk about all things luxury real estate and how you can become the next luxury agent in your market. The Queen is back. We've done a couple videos now, Gail, and they've been extraordinarily valuable. Link both of them below. About how you're doing 60 plus listings a year, how you're leveraging YouTube. And now we're going to be talking about what most agents are enamored by, which is breaking into luxury, but also being able to do it in a brand new market. So how are you doing? Let's talk a little bit about what's going on, and then let's start diving into some tactical strategies, because I think
Yeah,
luxury seems to be like this mythical world that very few know how to break into, and you've now done it twice. So let's dive
right.
in.
And Mike, it's interesting because, when I came here to Florida, I thought, okay, I was just going to beeline it for the luxury business because, you know, and I'm not going to pat myself on the back because in California, where I'm from, a freaking Lennar track home I sold for 1,400,000. So it wasn't like, it's like it is very market specific. So here I thought, I've always thought in the back of my mind, oh my gosh, because we all watch that $1 million listing and that sort of thing. And I'm going to sell beach houses, beautiful beach houses, right? So I'm like, okay, Ponte Vedra. And I spent, a lot of time just trying to figure out how to get into that market. So I will tell you, I've had some second thoughts since I've gotten into the luxury market here, right? Because it is no joke. Was I able to do it? 100%. How did I do it? Well, there's two things what you always talk about. One is you find an agent that's already doing it, right? You find someone who's doing it. So it's kind of like, this is kind of a bad analogy, but like if you go into prison, right? When you try to find your cellie, right? You want someone to have your back. You want to have somebody that when you're going to, because you don't know, it's all new territory. You don't know really who's who and who the players are. You want somebody to have your back. So really, that was the very first thing. But before I found that, so I found him before he knew I found him, right? Because what am I going to do? Just go, hey, I'm an agent. I'm fantastic. I sold $90 million in California 2 years ago or an 80 million the year before. Nobody gives a shit. What are you going to do for them? They don't know you, right? They do not know who is this girl. Is she going to be a loudmouth at a listing appointment? Is she going to, you know, uh, make this difficult? Who is she? Is she going to take my business? So I had to identify that person. I started watching him. Like, I always talk about my SWOT analysis. Find out everybody's strengths, weaknesses, opportunity, and threats. So then I thought, well, what can I entice this guy with, right? Number one, I only work with nice people. Number two, I only work with good-looking people, right? So no, kidding. And I only work with younger people. So, I started looking at his stats and then I thought, okay, let me bring him some listings. How do I bring him listings? I am like, your antichrist in the wolf pack. I love expireds, right? So for me, it's pretty easy for me to have conversations with people that are in the luxury world, right? Number one, it's hard to get their phone numbers, right? Because a lot of people are LLCs or they have a property manager here in the beach area is a lot of Airbnb. So they're, it's not that easy. But what they still get is they get mail, right? So they get mail. And so I figured, okay, let me do this. Since I really couldn't just get on the phone and get expires because I have no track record. People want a track record, right? Because at the end of the day, they're not willing, credibility is everything in the luxury world. This is the one arena you cannot fake it, because if you do try to fake it, I mean, you fall on your face. So I went to him and I said, hey, Justin, and he happened to be an EXP agent. And it didn't have to be an EXP agent because I'm more concerned about finding that agent that is going to be kick-ass, who does business better than me, right? And so I started looking at his numbers and I looked at his listings, and I thought this could be a really good partnership, right? Because you're not going to be, I just wasn't looking to be somebody's bitch, right? Of course, I planned to be that, right? Because that's how I built my first business in the industry. I used to work for this guy, Nick Sadik. I always talk about him. He's still one of my very best friends. He owns 3 Sotheby's in California. And I told him, I go, here's what I'll do for you. I will take your card. And it took me like 12 phone calls to get a hold of him. And then one email, because my email just caught him at the right time. Everything in real estate, everything in life is timing, right? Everything in relationships is timing. So I said, you don't know me, but I've only had my real estate license a year. But here's what I'm willing to do for you. I'll take your car to the car wash. I will take, your clothes to the dry cleaners. I will make sure that your inbox is categorized and empty and answered. And I will take your dog to the vet. And I think I've told you this. And he said, well, I don't have a dog. Well, I bought him a Yorkie, and that dog is Gucci. That's his dog. And he was on the cover of a couple of magazines with his dog, this little handsome Lebanese guy with his little dog. So that's what now I didn't have to do that with Justin, right? And so I usually just call Nick's expireds. And it was super simple. If you could find a top agent that loses their listings, because here's the reality, 25% of the luxury listings that you're going to list are going to expire. They just do. Okay. So it is always better to be the second wife and the third wife. It's always better. So at the end of the day, I started calling his expires, and I would just say, hey, Nick noticed this, and you have to be able and ready to take the back seat. Like right now, I have 3 luxury listings, and guess what? I'm not listed on Zillow. I am on the MLS because he had the showcase listings, and he's doing, really most of the heavy lifting. I'm bringing the listings, and he's, really navigating the showings. I show up, that sort of thing. Your ego needs to go freaking out the door. If you're going to be caught up, well, my name has to be on that listing, you've already lost, okay? Really, what you'd be willing to do is, just take a back seat. You've got, if you're going to be with an Navy SEAL, he's not going to bring you out to the battlefield because you might kill him, right? You don't have the tool set yet. So at the end of the day, it was like, okay, Justin, I'm going to, I met with him. I go, here's my plan. I go, I'm going to set up a beautiful marketing piece. And if you're going into luxury, this is not an arena where you don't have to spend money. You have to spend money. And if you can't shell out $5,000 a listing, don't even bother right now, right? Because that is a necessity. It's not an option. So what I did was, this was the first luxury piece that I put out. So it's all matte, it's gorgeous. I have all of his listings. It's our sales. It's his sales, not mine, right? So he sold a $19 million home. How nice is that? Okay, so I put everything about me, my sales. Between he and I, he sold about 400 million. I've sold, $1 billion. So not by myself, with my team, okay? So, but I personally, us together. So now we're like, hey, we sold $1.5 billion in real estate, and they're looking at this. I have credibility. That's how I get instant credibility. What does he get? He gets listings from me. So then I'm marketing us together, right? So as soon as they, and I will tell you, my first listing came from that mailer, and I called them up, and we set an appointment. And what was I looking for? I was looking for one listing. So at EXP, we're very, very lucky because I'm actually one of the ambassadors in the luxury department. We have killer material. So sent out this box. I knew I was going against, so I sent out this box. And in this box is this gorgeous video. And so
the future of luxury real estate has arrived.
Can you see it?
Refined, global,
anyway,
exclusively yours.
It's a really cool. So now I put my own videos in here, okay? Because I didn't have anything. So now we shot like an incredible video of that. So now I put that in there. Now I'm not going to send that out until I get the appointment. I want them to already hire me before I get there, right? So we're sending out, signals to, hey, what are the other agents sending out? Nothing. They're not sending anything. So we're sending that out. And then I also, now with my expired luxury, I send out I finally got, some nice marketing materials. I sent out this gorgeous matte brochure. I show them everything about, this is how we're going to market your property. I'm going to send it to, we have 90,000 agents in our database, but I personally have a relationship with 43. Those are the ones I mail out to. So I'm showing them, here's our beautiful beach house, sold it for full price. After 3 deals fell through, because when you're dealing in luxury, remember this, people, you're dealing with crazy people. The bigger the house, the bigger the problem. And that is no mistake. So the day before we were closing on this house, no, actually the day before the last contingency, it was a 14-day close. They came in, the sellers, after buying a $4 million brownstone in Texas, and robbed like $1,200 worth of Vitamixes and pots and pans. And Frankie from New York, because I'm from New York and he's Italian, he said, I knew what he was going to say, fuck you, right? I'm out. You took my Vitamix over a $2.5 million deal. So this is the kind of stuff, and they stole suitcase holders, like what you put your suitcase on. So I didn't know they were going to do that. They showed up with, a truck and took a bunch of stuff. So when you're dealing in luxury, you are really handling and navigating emotions and crazy people. These people, and I am kind of like the Long Island medium, seriously. Like I would say to Justin, we need to call these people because they're going to be calling us today. And every time they call me, I get freaking anxiety. Because, it's just anxiety. But let me tell you about like our first meeting. So, and I'd like to be proactive. I never want them to go, hey, what's going on? Because then you suck, right? Because every agent says, oh my gosh, I'm going to give the best service. Well, that's expected. That is expected. So that is a bunch of BS. So you find somebody. So Justin and I, we had the meeting together. So our very first, so you're going to go through this. So if you find a luxury agent, you can't just say, can you take me on, how many people say, Gail, can I shadow you on a listing? No, you cannot shadow me on a listing. You bring me on a listing and then you can shadow me and then let me run the listing. Because why would anybody do that? Do you know, it's kind of like going on your first date. You're trying to make contact. Am I physically attracted? Not to the guy, but to the house, right? Because if I'm not physically attracted and it's a piece of, it's a garbage dump, I'm out. I was very proud of myself it was not even a week ago, went in a listing appointment. And then what's the dive, right? Like the woman was like showing, this has to be updated. Everything is like cracking and falling. And I mean, I can't even tell you how bad this house was, right? And this was like a $900,000 house. And I looked at her and so like, you could see the river from her house. I go, I just got to tell you, this is, this can take a lot of time. And that's the most important thing. You have to value your time because these luxury listings, I don't know if anyone follows my Instagram on Relentless Realtor, you'll see me hosing down salt off of windows, okay? Picking up freaking cockroaches that are that big, kicking them. I have like a cockroach stick now that I beat them. I was like, I go in there and I seriously will like, you look, because if you're by the beach and you're by sand and by water, guess what? They love to come in and snuggle. So it's like, there's nothing worse. You got to get there an hour ahead of time. So think about that. Now, these listings are all 40 minutes from my house. So it's an hour there, an hour back. I got to get there an hour early. That's 3 hours. And then you get a phone call. Yeah, we're not coming today. We stopped for lunch and they're kind of tired. Or then they'll say, and then now you get that Ring doorbell recording everything, and the sellers are super pissed, right? What are the sellers? Didn't you vet them? So they start like getting crazy with you, right? So I usually, like I told the last agent when she said that, I said, I don't care if you show up by yourself and say you're going to Facebook this, FaceTime, but you need to show up, drop your people off because I didn't want to say, I went through it. I said, the seller's gone through a lot of trouble to get this house ready. So my first meeting with them, and this is something when you go there, now I'm not normally nervous. My wheelhouse, my comfort zone, my happy place is listing appointments because I can go in there. I used to be a photographer, so I hardly had maybe 5 minutes sometimes with if I was shooting a celebrity or if I was shooting a wedding or a portrait to relax people and kind of get them to trust you, right? It's that trust factor. So I walk in, I prepare, I'm like, okay, what happens? You get that friggin' drunk monkey. They're gonna know, they're gonna ask you a question, you're gonna get stumped. So that your mind plays all kinds of shitty games with you, right? And that's exactly what happened. I get in there and they're talking to Justin and he's saying, "Oh, I've done this, and oh yeah, I sold 2 doors down." Because we actually he did sell the house 2 doors down from the listing. And it was kind of like a remodel house. And this house was like probably one of the nicest homes I've ever sold, just as far as detail and everything. And then she looked at me and she was just like, and she, hopefully she doesn't watch this, but she was a lot of plastic surgery that was looking at me, right? So she was like, "So Gail," she was like, "What have you done? What have you done here?" Gail DeMarco. When they say my last name, I know, okay, they've looked me up. They've Googled me. They know my whole life story. This is going to be fun. Just buckle up. So I said, absolutely nothing. I've sold nothing here. And I always, refer to my favorite book, Chris Voss, Never Split the Difference. And I go, you probably think I'm a terrible agent, right? Or like I'm not qualified to sell your home. But the truth is, at the end of the day, it's like, you just told me how important it was for you to move to Texas because your husband's heart surgeon was there. I said, if he came from Texas, your husband's heart surgeon, and had to do a surgery at Mayo Clinic, could he do the same exact thing? And she was like, oh, oh, yeah, yeah. She's like, I said, I've sold almost $1 billion in real estate, actually over $1 billion, but I have to keep it under because there's some haters out there. And we didn't count new construction in California. So, I'm actually in the process of collecting it all. But I said, I said, your top agent here in Ponte Vedra, I've already outsold them for the entire year. I said, your top agent has never sold more than $40 million. I personally, without my team, sold almost $90 million. I said, so I think I'm really qualified to sell this home. The only difference is I'm in a different state. I said, put me in Alaska and I can sell you the best Eskimo. You just put me anywhere. I take my skill set with me. Now, keep in mind, if you don't have that skill set, you guys, there's no easy button to luxury. You have got to start from the beginning, from the very beginning, right? You got to start selling 200, 400, $500,000 homes. You need scar tissue. You need to get your booty whooped, right? Because at the end of the day, it's like if you haven't paid your dues, you don't just jump into luxury. So I have a good example. I have a really great guy, and he is coming to EXP, I think. And if he doesn't, it's okay, right? But he kind of shows up at my open houses, and he probably spends more time picking my brain than anybody else that's been on, my team that I just formed. And I don't care because I'm that type. If you show up and ask me, and I have to tell him things like, stop touching your beard, right? He's like this the whole time, like, I go, that freaks me out. Stop touching yourself. And then he's there like this, and he's like cracking and cracking. And I'm like, stop cracking. I go, because that is a sign that you are insecure and it's freaking distracting me. So He's like, oh, okay. And Greg knows who I'm talking about. So he showed up at, one of this beach property. And so then I got him into a prospecting group and he learned how to prospect. So at the end of the day, I was very, very great. I will do anything for anybody that jumps into prospecting. Like right as soon as I'm done with this conversation, I'm jumping on my Vulcan and I've got two people coming over here and we're going to be dialing together. And one of them is like sending me all these emojis of him sweating. And I'm like, I give you 4 freaking days to learn this program. 4 days. You only need 1 day, right? To learn Vulcan, or any kind of dialer. And if you don't have it down, then I'm not paying for you. You get it yourself. You're on my team. If you can't figure it out and you can't give me 2 appointments a week. So he gets 2 luxury appointments, this guy, and he's not on my team. And the only reason I don't want him on my team is because logistically, I really focus on one area and I wouldn't be able to serve him correctly. So he said to me, well, I want to be co-listing agent. I go, absolutely not. There's no way you're going to be co-listing agent. And he said, well, I need MLS credit. I go, for what reason? I said, so what are they going to do? They're going to have me, you, and Justin on this? I said, I'm still learning. I've only been here 14 months. Now, keep in mind, I'm already hitting my numbers this year. I am still learning people, okay? And then I started thinking about this because when Mike asked me to do this, I'm like, what? I don't ever think I want to do luxury by myself because I love having a co-listing agent because you have to personally be there to kick the cockroaches, wash down the windows, get everything, the air conditioning on, make sure that everything is prime. What if you have a life, right? What if you want to go somewhere? You cannot turn down a showing on a luxury listing. So anyway, I told them, I appreciate this. You're willing, go ahead and give it to somebody else if you want, but I'm not going to do that. Well, can I just do it with Justin? I go, you cannot add value right now. Until you can add value, number one, you got a shitty car, right? If you're in luxury and you show up in a beat up car, you have to look like you can afford the property. The reason I drive a really nice car is because when I pull up, they think, oh, they're dealing with somebody on their playing field. So for 2 years, when I was working with Nick Sadek, I used to pretend I wasn't pretending. I loved being his assistant. I loved being in the background. I did not care as long as my bank account was full, right? And I would always say, this is Nick's assistant. Even on my email, it would say Nick Sadek's assistant because I was proud to be his assistant. And honestly, if he had not pushed me out of the nest, and when I say that, he did it because he said you could stand on your own yet. Until you can stand on your own. And I'll never forget, he actually, not him, it was another agent that I worked for the year before offered to buy me, I will finance a Mercedes because I used to drive a truck. And now I still kind of drive a truck, but I like trucks, right? So I'm like, I can afford it. But here's the thing. If you can't afford a nice car and you're going on a luxury appointment, go freaking rent a car. Go rent a car. You can rent for $120 for 2 days. You can rent a nice Defender, Range Rover, right? You could do something like that. You cannot show up in your beat up Toyota because I used to even get nervous when he would just park in the driveway. And I said to him, I go, this is $600,000 home because he would do, open houses for me. Your car's dirty. I don't care if it's an old car. Clean it. You need to be clean. You need to go buy a nice outfit. When you go there, when you show up, you want them to be in awe of you. Every time I'd show up at any of the listings, they always go, oh my gosh, you always look so nice. You always look so nice. And they're like, I like your outfit. I like this. I like that. They don't go, did she just roll out of bed? Or you cannot, that is something you can't fake. Do you need a Louis Vuitton purse? No, you don't. You don't need that. That's not what I'm talking about. Just be prepared. So with this, I said to him, I go, well, you're not going to be on it. Just name a referral fee. So he said, came up with $5,000 for each one. Because it turned out when he called, guess what? This is why everybody needs to call expireds. He calls, he's only been licensed less than a year. He gets a listing for it really needs to be 2.2. and one for 1.8 because the lady said, oh, by the way, I have another one right next door. Right next door. So I'm like, that's amazing. But let me tell you what happened. So everybody thinks it's so easy. It is not so easy. So here I am in Sturgis. I'm ready to go on a ride. I've got like my motorcycle outside. I've got like 8 of my best friends out there. We're about to go ride the Black Hills. And I get a call. My CFO and my CPPO and whatever want to get on a Zoom call with you. Can you do that? So talk about cross-dressing. I had to like run downstairs. I didn't even have any good clothes. All I had was like all my leather shit with me. So I was like, sure. So there I am. And this is what most people won't do, right? I dropped my entire itinerary for the day because they all left like they were leaving, going for breakfast at 8. And, for nobody that knows me, I used to work with Harley Davidson. For many years, I shot for all the motorcycle magazines. And, that kind of something that it's like something I'm very, very passionate about. And so I sat there for an hour and a half and got grilled by the seller, her CFO, her personal assistant, and Justin was on it. And so what I did, and you can ask whoever you're doing this with to tape it. So I did a Loom recording and I sent it to him. He learned so much from me. He goes, I'm so glad I wasn't on that. I'm so glad because, when they ask you these questions, you have got to be able to name that tune. So right now, my goal is to do, and let's talk about this. Maybe, Mike, we should call this why you should not sell luxury. Okay, because I'm really reevaluating my life, where I'm at in my life, and is it really worth it? I keep a really tight spreadsheet because I know exactly when something's coming off the market. And the best time, honestly, for beach properties is hurricane season. That's the best time because most people, just like in California, I used to do a big push right before fire season when all the insurances go up. So, if you're, that's what I always want to ask people. Why is it that you want to sell luxury? Well, most of the time, what they say? Oh, those big paychecks. Well, yeah, those big paychecks are great, right? Because you figure 2.5 is, 4 or 5 $500,000 ones, right? But I got to tell you, I am slinging out these $500,000, $600,000. I'm on the tune of every single month. I'm doing between 4 and 7 every month. That's like selling one $2.5 million home. Guess what? I don't have to put out $5,000 for every home, that's being luxury listed. I don't have to get in my car and give up 3 hours of my life. And if the listing doesn't sell, because why doesn't it sell? Let me tell you why they don't sell. Number one, the luxury people, they don't ever really tell you the truth in the beginning. They don't tell you why they're selling, right? This is why I win a lot of appointments, because then I'll tell you, you'll probably think this is kind of odd, but they don't tell you they're getting a divorce. They don't tell you they had debt, right? They don't tell you that. So when you show up at a listing appointment, women, pay attention to this. When you show up and you're showing boobs and butt, you're not going to get the listing. I'm going to get it because you're a threat to her husband. I don't know if I talked about this before, but I was on a listing appointment and there were 9 people interviewed, 9. And some of them were some really good friends, colleagues, and they ended up picking me. So I finally said to her, I go, hey, I'm super excited. Can't wait to work with you both. Just curious. And I was talking to her because most of the time when you're dealing with high-level people, you will talk to her. He is working. He's in the hospital. He's at work, doing his 18-hour days. So it's the wife. It's the wife. So when you go in there and you got your high heel spikes on your beautiful floors and you got your boobs hanging out, and then, you've already lost. You've already lost, okay? And especially, oh my gosh, some of those signs I've been seeing. So she said, well, I just knew my husband wouldn't hit on you. I was like, oh, is that a compliment? She goes, well, you're just not his type. I go, oh, what is his type? She goes, he likes women with big boobs. And that's why we're selling, because he's having an affair with this girl who looks like a hooker. So I said, okay, I'll take it. So, it really made sense to me. It's like when you go in, the number one thing you need to have is confidence and respect for the person, and empathy, because these people don't just decide to sell their $1 million home, right? I mean, I got to tell you, when the market started to crash, I had to unfortunately sell this gorgeous, it was like, very, very expensive home. And this guy, his business was sending out all those postcards. He was like multimillionaire, for all the refinances, refinance your home. He had, like, I don't know, thousands of mortgage brokers using his company. Well, he hadn't paid his mortgage in over a year. He didn't want to tell his wife. He told his wife his friend was borrowing his car. His car got, repossessed. I mean, the guy was like suicidal. So this is what you're going to deal with when you're dealing with high-end properties. You're going to deal with high-end problems, because unless they're saying, you know what, we're going to sell that one and we want you to buy us, a bigger one, or, two small ones. My kid's getting married. Let's get them a, it's not like that. And sometimes it's very sad, but most of the time I'm so happy to get rid of them. So when I think about my life and I think about a luxury listing, and just my video is $1,600, you're into photography $2,500, and then normally they expect you to pay for staging or half a staging. So it could be anywhere, from $5,000 to $10,000 to market one property. Now, you sell a $500,000 home, you're in and out. Like, last week I closed 4. I just got 3 more listings. I just got 2 more contracts yesterday. I'm still making the same money. And guess what? The people are so nice. And they listen to me. It's like, why do I want to take abuse? I feel like, you have to really decide, why do you want to go into it. If you want to, be all that, I could care less about, looking like I'm some big shot. All I care is about what's my bottom line. What am I netting every month? That's really, and what are my goals? Am I meeting my goals? So if you're going to get into luxury, unless you're living in the neighborhood or you happen to live that lifestyle, maybe you're married to a rich doctor, right? And, when I worked at Sotheby's, we had quite a few of these women that would come in with their Louis Vuitton bags, and they, their beautiful bleached blonde hair, and they're smelling like, Versace, and they'd sell like 2 a year, and that was good for them. But they weren't a luxury agent. To me is somebody who makes 50 million a year or more. That's a luxury agent, not somebody who gets lucky. So if that's going to be your wheelhouse, great, no foul. But it's not impossible, people. I remember my first luxury listing. I was working, we were going to buy, before the Sotheby's, we were considering buying an Intero. And so I worked at an Intero, and the owner said to me, just for, like, I think it was 4 months, he said, Gail, you're never going to get into that neighborhood. Because I told him, I want to work in Serrano. So here's another good point. So I said, well, why not? He said, you don't live there, because he lived there. I'm like, well, what have you sold there? And when somebody tells you you can't, then game on, people. Let's go, right? So I'll never forget he said that. So what I did was, I figured, just like my son's a wrestling coach, right? Because he was a wrestler. So at the high school, you have your feeder program. You need to have a feeder program into the luxury. So you find that luxury neighborhood that has the neighborhood outside of the gates, where you could go in there, do a bunch of business. So that's what I did. So I went into the Serrano area, and those people drive by those gates. One day I'm going to live there. I'm going to sell my house. I'm going to upgrade. That's what you need if you're going to, take over a market. And I'll tell you, 5 years, Mike, that I took first place. I mean, people like, do you realize you beat? Her name is Pat Sidey. She's a great friend of mine. She's like 9. No, she's not 90. I'm 90. She's probably like 80 something. But she's great, and she's phenomenal. And they were like, you beat Pat Sidey. And I said, I didn't even try. You keep your blinders on. It's like, if you're a racehorse, do you look at the horse next to you? Do you look at the horse, to the right or the left? No, you freaking look for the goal. And that's what you need to do. You need to just make a decision. I'm going to do it, or I'm not going to do it. But don't waste everybody's time around you. So, I mean, I got more. I feel like I got all these demons coming out. I want to share it all. um, at the end of the day, it's like every freaking agent that gets in this market, Mike, wants to sell luxury, right? They want to sell luxury, but you can make the same money and, without selling a luxury. They think that's how you get rich and that is going to be their key to their happiness. And at the end of the day, I'm not saying don't try, but you will get caught if you don't do your homework. When I say that, you need to know the builders, you need to know who the architecture is by. You need to know, is that quartzite or is that quartz? Are those, oh, that's a Sub-Zero refrigerator, a Wolf stove, La Courneur stove. You need to be able, when you walk in the house, to acknowledge those things. Because why do you need to acknowledge it? Because they look at it and they go, they paid a lot of money for it and they want it to be noticed, right? That's the only reason people buy like that, unless you have a husband who's a chef. And of course, we're going to have a Wolf stove, right? My husband's a chef. But most of the time, you need to know even terms like, what is portfolio lending? Um, Things like that. Or people are dealing in Bitcoin. Like I just sold my second home with Nvidia stocks. These people work for Nvidia. So it's like you're just up against established players. They've already earned trust, reputation. And so that's why the only way I feel like to really go hard and to do it the right way, because you want to learn. You don't want to learn by reducing your commission. That's not how you want to learn. You want to learn by an agent who does this and can really show you that roadmap, right? So this way, when you're going down that road, you can every single thing. Like I tell my agents that are working with me, save every freaking email I send every piece of marketing, because when you leave me, I'm not going to shut you down from your email. I'm going to leave it open for 2 months. You can get it all because I'm an open book. And the only reason you're working with me is so you can elevate your game, right? You just have to really like learn their world. A lot of people say go to the different charity events and this and that. I I don't, that's not my jam. If they don't want to meet me out on a paddleboard, um, or at a good brewery, I'm not going to. Even though I am a member of, and I was even in California, the really nice country clubs, I go there because I don't want to talk to anybody. I'm kind of different. I'm kind of an introvert. When I'm not working, I don't go to places to network. I really don't. I don't want to sit at the bar or on the beach and talk about some, hey, I don't want to be that person. I hate that, and at the end of the day, I guess if I was desperate, I would. Am I not going to talk to somebody if I have a Mai Tai and I'm in the pool? Of course I am, but I'm not going to go out of my way to go to these little wine and cheese things and that sort of thing. Um, God, I'm sorry, Mike. You haven't gotten a word in.
It's all good. I love hearing all of your adventures. So,
But
and I have very similar experience in the sense that, I got into luxury and the cost was enormous. As a new agent that was struggling financially, that 5,000 did make a big difference to me. And because the market was so tough, half of them didn't sell, and now you're fully at a loss.
right,
And it was really, it was cool to be able to have that feather in the cap, to be able to be like, look at post it on social media, be like, look at the cool home that I listed. But
right.
it's way cooler to have consistent income coming in your bank,
It,
and that's where I think many aren't really understanding the not only what goes into it financially, but as you alluded to, like the learning curve. Like this should not be something where you set these expectations of like learn how to break into luxury and you're going to do it within the next month. It's like,
right,
okay, this could be something you could start to take steps toward, so
right,
that over the next 5 years you start to have more of your business luxury, maybe 20 or
sure.
30%, but you still have that 70-30 that is the quick turnaround stuff that's going to get you paid fast with a way higher profit margin.
And like I love the Batista boys, right? Number one, they're Filipino, and so am I, right? So they're hard workers, and they've really dialed it in. So I'm not saying you can't. They've surely proven you can, and I did it in California. At this point in my life, am I still marketing? Oh hell yeah! Okay, one of the things I do for my expireds,
is I watch homes that are sitting. So I'll do a search for anything that's been on the market for 5 months, because those are the ones you want to accidentally send one of your marketing pieces to. Those are the ones you want to watch because they're going to be frustrated before they come off the market. Do you think, I mean, it's interesting. I just had one of our agents that is in our group, Jason Walter. He had said something to me. He's, somebody who wanted to buy a lot, and they were going to check with different builders. And he's like, Gail, should I refer this over to somebody, or should I just try to run with them? I go, it's going to be kind of a time suck. I said, because they need to work with a contractor. They need to, even though it's a $2.5 million deal that they're going to spend. I go, your best bet, because guess what, Jason? They're already looking. They're already looking at other agents. If they're even having that conversation with you, of course they're going to get a second opinion. So, I'm not saying my business won't pivot there as long as I can keep this relationship going. I mean, Justin lives over there, so it works out great. But at the end of the day, when you're coming to the table and you really want to get into luxury and you don't have anything to bring to them, bring them an expired listing. That's what I do. And it is so darn easy. Like, I can't even wait. I was with Mojo for years. I started using Vulcan, and oh my God, the phone numbers are so much better. I've already lined up. Next week, I have four appointments for expireds. One is luxury. So, and at the end of the day, I keep saying that at the end of the year, one of my agents said to me, and I've said this before to you, I can't believe you're not upset. That deal just fell through, because deals always fall through, right? I'm like, why do I said, of course I don't. Because one of my agents last week, he lost a deal. The guy had terrible news, and it was a pretty good deal for him. It was a buyer on one of my listings, and he had bad news from Mayo Clinic that he had Parkinson's, right? And he was like so upset. I go, you should be upset for him, not for you. You should be upset for him, because when you make it about you and you've already spent that money, you need to get 4 listings a week, never mind 2 listings a week. He's actually coming over to my house in about 40 minutes. And we're going to really drill down, because that's the thing, people. When you're calling an expired, and my conversations are different. I was Mike Ferry trained, but I don't ever call up and say, hi, this is Gail DeMarco. I noticed 123 Banana Street just came off the market. Just wondering, when are you going to hire the right agent to sell that, for the job of selling your home? Like for my luxury listings, I'll say something like, hey, I'm just calling because I want to know how fast can I move in? I usually say something like that, just break the ice. It's like, excuse me? I go, oh my God, I want the room on the right. I love your, and this is how I got my appointment for next week. I just said, I'm just calling because I want to ask you, how soon can I move in? Or, like really for my normal expires, my line is, and if anybody wants any more information about this, Mike, I have a whole bunch of scripts that I personally done. I usually just say, are you still accepting offers? That is like the best opener. I'm just curious. Are you still accepting offers? Why do you have a buyer? No, I don't have a buyer, but my website, I have 67,000 people that follow me on YouTube because of Mike Sherrard, because of Mike freaking Sherrard. I have this incredible YouTube station, and I bring in more buyers that are relocating from anywhere. So that's, and in the beginning, when I first started, I really wanted to like focus on that one neighborhood. And then I thought, that's kind of stupid. You need, and people were telling me, well, focus on Jacksonville. Oh, I don't sell Jacksonville. I don't really sell, so don't listen to everybody. Okay. Find something that's going to fit you and your personality, because this is why I'm consistently doing 4 to 7 deals a month, because I'm focused. I'm focused on exactly what my avatar is for my client. I can do it in my sleep. I could do it from an RV. I could do it, from Arizona. I could do it if I'm in California. Because what is your job really as a listing agent? I don't care if it's luxury or, if it's a $500,000 home. And that could be luxury in your area. Your job is to get a buyer. How do you get a buyer? You don't just put on the MLS. Do you buy Google AdWords? Not anymore. Well, now Zillow just partnered with ChatGPT, right? So we got that whole thing happening. But I'll tell you, Mike, if anybody has not gone into your Agent AI Accelerator course or your YouTube course, you guys are missing out. I mean, it is like fire. So, I mean, honestly, and I didn't even tell you this, but I can't even listen to it anymore when, because normally I put it on because I figure subliminally I'll hear some things and then I'll wake up and I'll be ready to go. I just can't sleep because I get so friggin' excited. I was at my computer last night at 2 o'clock in the friggin' morning going, I gotta, I gotta do this on Manus. So it was like, you have so much good stuff in there, Mike. It's like freaking incredible, and I know you're working on a bunch of stuff more, and maybe we could figure out something together on, breaking that luxury, cracking that luxury code. But if anybody has any questions on the pieces I use, the marketing I use, the mailers, I have a letter, a template. I'll email it to you. I don't care, right? Because guess what? Most of you won't do it anyway. But if you do want it, just, absolutely ask me for it. I'd be so excited. I will celebrate. I have one girl that just celebrated it's a 4 point. She's actually in your group, Mike, Joyce, and she just did a $3.8 million. She just closed. So she used to be with Sotheby's, and then she came over with Josh and I, and she's just, really crushing it right now. So, and she loves your program. And, when she was kind of quoting some of the stuff from there, I'm like, I got to get in there. What? Yes.
I love that. Well, and I think that's a good segue, Gail. I obviously you and I are going to do another video on your expired strategy because everybody's going to get excited about that. But I want to save that because I know you and I can dive deep on it. But there is going to be a lot of people that want your guidance, your mentorship, because you do role play, you do have this community of people that you've been able to help break 500,000 a year and build these successful businesses. And now the fact that you've done it twice in two different markets on two opposite coasts, that is proof in the pudding that everything that you do works at the highest level. And so I'd love for you to talk about that in the sense that,
Yeah.
people have the opportunity to partner with you and myself to get both of our help to take their business to the next level. What does that look like when aligning with you?
Well, like I said, in the beginning, I almost felt like I was uncomfortable coming into your group because I am the Antichrist, right? Because I am the queen of expireds. And that is the quickest way now, YouTube. And you taught me such a lesson because I was like, Mike, I'm not going to freaking do YouTube. Nobody wants to see all these wrinkles in this neck, right? And nobody wants to see that. And, you got to get over yourself. That's number one. You know, that is number one because guess what? That YouTube, I mean, kicked in for me in 4 months, which was shocking. But if you need money, like right now, the best way to do this is to go into expires. And I'll tell you what, I've got 14 listings that are sitting right now that are people are going to be coming on in the spring. I've had 14 conversations of like, we're ready to go. We're going to wait till like March. You need to start building right now for January, February, March. That is the key because I'll tell you what, when you don't, you will be hitting me up for a loan. I had like 3 agents hitting me up for loans last year, and I did lend it to one of them, and he did pay me back. But it's like, I'm not going to do that anymore. I mean, why can't you? At the end of the day, I want you to think about this. This one guy, Steve, and he is he was an agent on my team. He was so afraid. Steve Gonzalez, he was afraid to pick up the phone and call. His first listing appointment was a $2 million listing appointment, and her name was Chloe. And Chloe was an 84-year-old woman. So what happened was he first talked to her husband, and then he called back to confirm. And she said, "Why would you call?" She goes, "I can't believe you called this house. My husband has dementia." And she hung up the phone on him. And so I said, "You're going to go over there and you're going to go bring her a gift and knock on the door." So he went over there. He brought her chocolate and a bottle of wine and got the listing. And she bought another house for $1 million. And I bought the buyer for his listing. So, you never know. And then I said to him, I go, "Steve, think about this. You used to be so afraid to call expireds. What did you make off that deal?" Okay, $2 million, 3% commission, another $1 million. So you made 60, then you made $90,000 off of one phone call. One phone call of a little old lady who freaking loves your butt because you went over there with chocolates and you didn't know her husband had dementia. So it's like, that's pretty good. Okay. So get over your fear. And when people start talking to you, so many people want conversations now. That is the big thing. They want to know, is the market going to be better? Because they dropped us 25% basis point. Are we going to have, is there going to be a better housing market? Well, unfortunately, we don't know. But what I do know is based on the listings I'm stacking, we're going to have a hell of a market. And you better get on, you better beat the competition because if you're thinking of selling, so is everybody else. You know, I can't wait to do
Yeah.
the expired ones. Let's go.
I know. No, it's going to be incredible. And guys, again, I'm going to link all of Gail's stuff below. So her YouTube channel, her Instagram, so you can check it out, and a link to book a call, right? Because again, aligning with us coming into this new year, so many agents are having the worst year that they've ever had, but I know the agents that are aligning with us are having the best year they've ever had. Like it's a choice. And I think aligning with the right people that have the right strategies that work in this market is what people need right now. And so have that conversation with Gail. Again, both of us can help you. And any final words, Gail?
Honestly, Mike, I've been thinking about since you and I have been starting to work together. And I really do want to step back a little bit more. So I am co-listing almost all of my listings, whether they with two other agents on my team, because I want to be 100% available for any agents that want to meet up with me. I want to have an open calendar, and I really want to expand to different markets and help you guys grow and crush it. So if you are thinking of, hey, what I'm doing isn't working and maybe I need to get a job and my life sucks, call me because I've been there and I can, we all need accountability. We all need to lock arms. And, I just pray that God always puts the right people in front of me at the right time for the right reason. And most of the time he doesn't. And when he doesn't, I look at it as an opportunity.
I love that. Well, that's a perfect way to pull this together. Again, thank you so much, Gail, for sharing that. And, again, I've seen how much your stuff actually works, the lives it's transformed, and hopefully you can be our next one. So, guys, make sure you check out the links in the description. Go subscribe to Gail's channel. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe on this one, and we'll see
Thanks.
you on the next video.